News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. Two candidates running for a seat on the Cache County Council for the Southeast District were on KBNU's For the People program last week. Catherine Buse is a sixth-generation South Cache Valley resident. Her family settled in Hiram many years ago, and she's grown up her entire life in Nibley. She says she's seen a lot of growth happening in Nibley.
I have just recently been elected to my third term for the Nibley City Council, and I've immensely enjoyed that. It has been an amazing experience, and to be a part of such a great community and advocate for our residents. And because of that, and people have approached me and said, hey, what do you think about running? And this seat is coming available, and it piqued my interest. I think I can continue advocating for, my people that I love in Nibley, but also expand that to that entire Southeast District.
Her opponent will be Lad Kennington, who is also on the program. He has spent the last 6 years on the Cache GOP Executive Committee. He was a campaign manager and helped on various campaigns, meeting with the candidates and working with the candidates. And he talked about what made him decide to run for the county council.
One day I was just on my way home, and I was at the light turning to go up Providence Lane, and just felt a overwhelming burning in my soul to run for county council. And it was kind of weird, and anyway, I drove home, and I parked at my house, and I thought, oh, that was really weird. And even weirder than that is I don't remember the drive home or turning at the light or anything else.
Kennington said he would like to get in and make a positive change through principled conservatism. Ballots will start to go out June 7th. Primary day is June 28th, and ballots need to be postmarked before that date. The Southeast District seat became open when Gordon Zillis announced that he was retiring from the council. KBNU News Time is 4:07. KBNU weather for tonight. Partly cloudy this evening, then becoming mostly cloudy, low around 40, and then a 40% chance of rain showers in the afternoon on Tuesday. Cloudy, cooler, high temperature in the upper 50s with west winds 10 to 20 miles an hour in the afternoon. 30% chance of rain showers Tuesday night, and then back to partly cloudy upper 50s on Wednesday. We've been in the high 60s today. 68 has been our high. It's 67 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Adams Wealth Advisors. They have over a decade of service, earning the trust of the individuals they proudly serve. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
The wind is whipping, rain is pouring, branches are falling, and it could hail at any minute. How could you leave your baby out in that storm?
Well, I can't park her in the house. Oh, baby, Daddy loves you. I'm so sorry. What can I do?
Call Northern Steel Buildings to protect your baby. We build custom agricultural buildings, barns, arenas, warehouses, and equipment storage that's built to last. Schedule a free consultation at northernsteelbuilding.com. That's northernsteelbuilding.com. Value from concept to construction.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. Utah Highway Patrol officials said over the weekend troopers made 49 traffic stops on vehicles speeding over 100 miles per hour in Juab County. They said on Saturday they had stopped 30 vehicles in just 30 hours for going over 100 mph. Officials say the heightened effort is part of a speed enforcement project for the sand dunes at Little Sahara, which is expected to see a spike in visitors. Sergeant Corey Housekeeper with UHP said in total they have made 290 speed stops, including drivers traveling under 100 miles per hour. He urged people to slow down and be patient with other motorists. Bureau of Land Management officials said they expect an influx of approximately 20,000 visitors to Little Sahara Recreation Area. They said that earlier before over this past weekend. Emergency responders were also on site due to the increase of visitors. Authorities say 3 people were found dead in a fire at a home in west central Utah. Fire broke out in Delta on Saturday. The Millard County Sheriff's Office says it and the State Fire Marshal's Office are investigating how it started. The names of those who died were not immediately released. KVNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Breaking news and stimulating talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
This is President Noel Cockett with Utah State University. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we are partnering with CAPSA to raise awareness about the importance of responding to survivors with belief and compassion. USU is committed to Start by Believing and reducing barriers to reporting. Learn more about how to support survivors at startbybelieving.usu.edu.
After that long, cold winter, my green grass blades are dingy yellow and smashed down. I need a little help waking up. Oh, and I need help fighting off those pesky weeds. What can I do?
Don't worry, friend. Logan Extermination helps lawns come out of tough winters. And right now, they have a special on pre-emergent and fertilizer application. It'll keep weeds down and green up your grass for only $55. Call Logan Extermination for details. 752-8450. Based on maximum 5,000 square feet.
It's time for Valley Recycling's annual Earth Day event. Bring your aluminum cans, old automobiles, copper, steel, and other metal scrap to Valley Recycling, 145 North, 10th West in Logan, April 20th through 23rd. Not only will you leave with the highest prices of the year, but Valley Recycling has partnered with a variety of local companies for great giveaways, as well as free food vouchers to Cafe Sabor and Firehouse Pizzeria. To schedule a drop-off appointment and for pricing and other information, visit valleymetalrecycling.com.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. Hour one of today's show, Monday, April 18th. Controversy in the primaries. You knew it was coming. You knew things would get a little ugly and there'd be a bit of mudslinging. We're not going to assist the mudslinging, though. This cycle, we're going to do something a little different with candidates. When a candidate has mud slung out them by their opponent, we're just going to invite them on the show and let them clear it up. We'll be doing that tomorrow with the candidate. We also have county council candidates, part 2, coming up this week. No mudslinging there yet. We'll see. But last week we spoke with two great candidates, Catherine Buse and, whoa, I almost just stabbed myself with a pencil there, Bill. It's dangerous here in the studio this week.
Some of those pencils are really sharp.
Catherine Buse and Ladd Kennington, who are both Republican candidates in this primary for who will represent the southeast seat on the council, which is open due to the retirement of Councilmember Gordon Zillis. And then the northeast seat is also open. It wasn't going to be. Gina Worthen was running for re-election. What turned into a crowded primary, she withdrew. So now that is an open seat, and so Republican voters on their ballot on June 28th, or before really, will have a chance to choose between two candidates, former Cache GOP Chairman Chris Booth and Mark Hurd. And Chris and Mark will both be with us this Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So last Wednesday at 5, if you live in that southeast district, we spoke with Ladd Kennington and Catherine Buse. And you can hear that interview via our podcast service on Podcastics. Simply search for KVNU's For the People, and you can actually hit the subscribe button there and never miss an episode. Then again, coming up this Wednesday, part 2 of our candidate spotlights for the county council with that northeast race. Chris Booth and Mark Hurd will be here in the studio. So, Logan residents, survey will be going out within the next couple of days. trying to gauge your interest and your feelings, your concern, your preference, whatever, on open space and disappearing agricultural land. We'll be talking with former State Representative Jack Draxler, who's actually been co-chairing a group with Logan City to kind of spearhead this, this idea of a conservation bond, but also seeing where the general public is at on this in Logan City. How much focus do they think this needs right now? How much do they want to preserve, and where? What types of land? So this is going to be an interesting discussion. The survey will be going out again this week, but we'll get a chance to talk with former State Representative Jack Draxler before then on the show today. Coming up, I'm not going to tell everybody when, because I'm annoyed about this, but whenever there's a big national story, one more thing. On the show today, we'll be speaking with the executive director of the Box Elder Chamber of Commerce, because normally we speak with an executive director ahead of an event they have planned because they want to get people to it. What actually drew my interest, the Box Elder Chamber of Commerce, and made me reach out today is that I heard their annual awards gala sold out in less than a few days. It was over a weekend. It sold out. That's how much is happening in Box Elder County and how much interest there is right now in the business community. So that's a rare thing. So we reached out. We'll talk about why it sold out so fast and what they have planned in the future, and also just a general look at the state of the business climate there in Box Elder County. Things are happening pretty fast there. So Executive Director Monica Holdaway joining us later on in the show. And coming up at 4:40, a really cool announcement from Utah State University today. They are going to be a part of a federal pilot program, and it's dealing with archived documents from World War II. This is an ongoing thing that an organization called the GPO does, where they go out, and it's all in the interest of preserving history, digitizing it so it doesn't, it's a permanent record document that is not going to degrade, it's not going to age, it's not going to oxidize, it's digitized, and that also means these things are searchable and easier for people, even non-students, to access. So a big pilot program was announced today by the GPO and Utah State University's Merrill Cassier Library, and we'll be speaking with archivist at the USU Library, Jennifer Kirk, coming up in just a few minutes here after the news. So pretty packed show. So the thing, I'm not going to tell everybody when, but I've been getting a lot of flack from listeners and friends out there who are on the left, because on Friday when the news broke, I spent a minute or two casually telling people to look for some of the stories on the biggest story of the day, which was Senator Lee's texts to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. This has become a national story for several days now, with even a few columnists at the Washington Post and New York Times calling for Lee's resignation for his involvement, more so than he'd let on or been forthcoming with in the attempts to find an excuse to overturn the election, something Senator Lee finally decided couldn't be done, but he wasn't forthcoming with the timeline on this. In fact, it looks like he may have fibbed to Bob Woodward, of all people, which rumors have it that's not something you ever want to do. Woodward has a tendency to get even when somebody lies to him. So listeners are upset that I haven't talked. Some listeners are upset I haven't talked about this. And it's funny because anytime there's a story that gets a lot of attention, I either hear it from the left or the right. People on the left right now angry I didn't spend an entire hour, apparently, on Senator Lee's texts that I admit don't make him look very good, especially the one that became the biggest headline, which was the text that said, "What should I be saying here?" As if the White House Chief of Staff was writing his thoughts for him. That's not a good look for a United States Senator. But that's all I said on Friday, and people are angry at me for not spending more time on this. The last time this happened was something to do with a Hunter Biden story that people on the right were just livid that I didn't even mention it on the show. So let me tell everybody why. One, what's happening in Utah is far more interesting to me lately. That last presidential election and the one before that burned me out. I still read about this stuff. I still pay close attention. But, man, I could go a lifetime at this point without ever having to spend a lot of time thinking about national politics. I'm sure I'll warm to it again, especially as the elections really get underway this year. But right now, my focus is on the Utah legislature, counties, and cities. And that's kind of what this show's about anyway. So I will talk about Senator Mike Lee's texts, and I will even read some of the texts on the show today, but I'm not going to tell you when. So you'll have to listen to the whole thing. On the other side, there was a pretty big ceremonial bill signing today by Governor Cox and Lieutenant Governor Henderson. And they called this a, quote, celebration of diversity. Now, some people are giving them a hard time about this because, of course, remember, the Utah legislature just passed a ban on transgender kids in sports. There was a story out today about the 13-year-old girl this was all about. She had to quit her swim team over this. Not a good look for the legislature, especially where it was basically politics ahead of county conventions. It will be found unconstitutional, and it deservedly, I think, has gotten a lot of criticism. So as the governor took to the podium today, there was some criticism. But remember, the governor vetoed that bill. The legislature overrode him. He didn't think it was a good idea either. So cut him some slack, because the bills that were signed today, passed by lawmakers in this last session and signed by the governor ceremoniously today, because they've already been legally signed. These are all cool things. We'll talk about why the governor felt calling a press conference over this specific set of bills was the thing to do. And, well, it worked for him. We'll talk about why right after this.
Hi, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. As you know, the prices of gas, groceries, utilities, and housing are surging. Inflation has been increasing due to President Biden's policies, and it's a painful tax on all Utah families. I'm working hard to reverse these policies that are driving inflation and bring fiscal responsibility back to Washington. With inflation rising faster than paychecks, it's clear we need to balance our nation's checkbook. I've started a debt and deficit task force with stakeholders across Utah's 1st District to address America's most pressing financial problems. Please visit my website, www.blakemore.house.gov, to learn more about our productive solutions that will keep more money in your pockets. Paid for by official funds authorized by the U.S. House of Representatives.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you prepare for your journey. After all, retirement isn't the end of the trek, it's a new beginning. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Tuesday edition Clay and Buck Show will be breaking down the absolute latest on what's going on in Ukraine. Also, the federal mask mandate on airlines. Is it still going to be in effect, or is it going to be challenged? Plus, Buck.
Got some great guests lined up. Jason Miyares, the Attorney General of Virginia, and Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. Be sure to come hang with us on the Clay and Buck Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Governor Spencer Cox today held, this is his second ceremonial bill signing. They do these because the bills have already been legally signed, but it's an opportunity to highlight certain legislation that a governor, in this case, it's that a governor worked very hard on. Governor Cox was, so during the legislative session, the legislature shares most of the blame or praise for most of the legislation, but the governor does play a pretty big role in this, because the governor's office, his staff rather, can go to the legislature and say, we would like this to happen. And, a lawmaker can choose to take up that cause and run a bill. Constitutionally, only members of the Utah legislature can actually run a bill, but the governor's office can write them and then shop them around for a lawmaker that wants to take them. But also, there are ongoing conversations year after year, even outside of the 45-day session, in which lawmakers in the governor's office talk and get a chance to, like-minded individuals get a chance to come together on certain issues. And so, but as I understand it, this was Governor Spencer Cox and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson really pushed for a lot of this, or in some cases, like this driver's license exam bill we'll talk about in a bit, they saw an idea sponsored by a lawmaker, in this case a Democrat, and they got behind it, which helped it pass. So a lot of different ways this can come about, but either way, the governor's office feeling a bit of ownership over these bills and wanting to celebrate them. So they held a ceremony to sign the bills, a series of bills, all of them centered around what Governor Cox said was a focus on diversity and inclusion. Now, obviously, this is the governor hoping to save some face after the legislature overrode his veto of the transgender youth sports ban, bill that banned transgender kids from playing in youth sports. The governor vetoed it, said it was cruel and unnecessary and the wrong way to go about it. The legislature, a lot of them headed into their county conventions, of course, had politics more in mind than common sense, and they overrode him, admitting at the time it was unconstitutional and fall in court. I mean, they literally said that on the floor as they voted for it. Senator Dan McKay got a little over his skis on this one and took some shots from the governor as well for even swapping the bill out. It was not originally a full-on ban. And Senator Dan McKay, in the final hours of the session, swapped it out without a public hearing or anything. So he caught some flack for that and had to actually apologize to the governor publicly. It's been a mess. And so the governor, obviously, fearing that this could lead to, repercussions for Utah. Florida, seeing some of that right now with their what's being referred to as the Don't Say Gay bill. The government and the legislature really taking some heat from the business community on that, including Disney. And you don't mess with Disney. But the governor, not wanting that same thing to happen here in Utah, wanted to highlight these, as the governor said today, bills that came from cooler heads and cooler minds. Basically implying that this is what he would prefer Utah, or what he feels makes Utah, and to quote him, what we should be spending our time on, not the divisive issues like he didn't mention House Bill 11 specifically, but like some bills he said recently can be. And again, the governor vetoed House Bill 11, the transgender youth sports ban, so he wasn't a fan, obviously. Legislature overrode him, admitting it would fall in court because it was unconstitutional, and here we are. But the state still passed the law, the legislature. So the governor saying today, we need to point out to the rest of the country, especially, the business community, because some of our business here in Utah are hearing about this, and they're hearing things like, well, we don't want to locate in Utah. Look what they just did. We don't want to locate somewhere where they don't take, inclusion more as a focus, where they're being divisive and singling people out, like transgender kids. I mean, that was an actual statement from a large company that has locations here in Utah. And the governor said, we can't have that. And so he wanted to highlight ways in which Utah has done the opposite. So he highlighted some bills today in the ceremonial signing. And here's a quick list of what some of these bills do. One of the bills makes driver's license exams available in multiple languages. And this is a direct attempt to deal with the fact that, as the sponsor, Senator Iwamoto, said, a lot of people, refugees are a great example, but also immigrants come here to work. And without, a driver's license, it can be a real economic blow to their success, whether they're able to find housing, whether they're able to find, a good job, because a lot of times you can find housing, but it's not close to a good job you're qualified for. And so making it easier for people who even don't speak English this is a huge controversy 10, 15 years ago, making sure they were only in English. That was the going politics of the time. So the opposite just happened. Driver's license exams in Utah will be available now in multiple languages. Still dealing with driver's licenses, a second bill the governor highlighted today made driver's license services specifically available, fast-tracking a program that would make driver's license services available to Afghan refugees who have recently settled in Utah. So those who are settling in Utah, to fast-track getting them, through the process of training for and earning a driver's license for the same reason, so that they can have more opportunities for work, etc. So another bill recognized Juneteenth as an official state holiday. Juneteenth has been celebrated as a national. Well, it's been celebrated, culturally as a holiday for over a century, but it's celebrated as a national holiday for many years now, and it is now officially a Utah holiday, which means it will be celebrated like many of them. Juneteenth, by the way, is celebrated on June 19th to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the U.S., and the holiday was first celebrated in Texas, where in 1865, in the aftermath of the Civil War, slaves were officially declared free under the terms of that 1862 Emancipation Proclamation. So, again, it's a federal holiday, and now it is also a state holiday celebrating the emancipation of African-American slaves in 1865. That is what it means for it to be a state holiday. Well, it means certain things will be closed, certain things won't. It also means that state employees, for example, will get the day off, and it could mean schools as well. So other than that, it's an opportunity just to, the governor said, highlight the importance of this and also talk about how much work we still have to do when it comes to equality. And finally, the governor signed a bill today. Well, again, ceremony. He signed the bill weeks ago legally, most likely, but it's in a ceremony of a bill signing. The governor highlighted signing a bill that he and his team worked very closely on, he said, expanding health care support to Utah's racial and ethnic communities. What they found, the governor said, is that a lot of these communities were feeling a bit cut off, and they were going out without some essential services, which eventually would then put them in the hospital, something entirely preventable, but they didn't know they could find help. And so there are ways, the governor said, that they found during the pandemic actually worked very well. Mobile clinics, pop-up clinics, and things like that. He said this is a service we can provide to some of these communities that will not only save taxpayer dollars in the end, keeping people out of the emergency rooms, especially those that are uninsured, but also will make communities healthier. And some of these are going to be educational programs as well that they'll take right into the communities, the governor said. So, and then finally, the governor signed a resolution condemning anti-Semitism in Utah. It's shocking this needs to be done, but as Representative Doug Owens from Mill Creek said, he was the resolution sponsor, he said, right here at home in Utah, to most of our surprise, I'm sure, we've seen year after year, the last 3 years, an increasingly visible tide of anti-Semitism and even growing numbers in anti-Semitic and white supremacist groups. So he ran this resolution to just say, the state of Utah is not on board with this. Some of this, even the resolution was run partly in response to, so what started all this really for the resolution itself is not just the growing numbers, which is tragic, but also an email that was sent by it was a Silicon Slopes executive, and he sent it out to a number of tech firm CEOs and the entire state legislature. And it was basically an anti-Semitic rant that was sent out by, it was obviously the guy was having a bad day, but a lot of us have bad days and don't do things like this, Former State Rep Patrice Arendt also told a story recently of as she was leaving her synagogue in Salt Lake City, someone parked at a stoplight. That was, by the way, the founder and chair of a software company called Entrada that sent the anti-Jewish email to state lawmakers claiming Jews were part of a globalist plot to wipe out America, and yeah, it was a weird email. But former Representative Patrice Arendt told a story today while there with the governor that recently she was leaving her synagogue in Salt Lake, and someone parked at the stoplight on the corner there in Salt Lake City. Seeing her leave the Jewish the building there, obviously covered with Jewish symbols, she said the person in the car rolled down their window and said Hitler was right, and tossed a drink out in front of her. Representative Owens said, we can't pretend this isn't a problem. We can't pretend it isn't a growing problem. Tragically, most of us don't want to think it is. This seems so archaic and old that we should have moved on from all of this by now. But unfortunately, some haven't. And unfortunately, their numbers are actually growing in Utah and Idaho, Owens said today. So Governor Cox said he was proud to sign this resolution, basically declaring Utah as a state that stands completely in opposition to anti-Semitism and hate of any kind. So the resolution was also signed. A resolution was also signed warning school districts and youth sports programs to be more accommodating to religious clothing needs of students. This came after a reported experience of a young woman with a hijab and a young man with dreadlocks, in which school district officials, well, we'll put it this way, could have handled things a lot better. Check it out. That's just a few highlights. The governor actually spent some time talking about 20 different bills today that he said were all part of a package of bills dealing with diversity and inclusion here in Utah. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more For the People right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:37. The news is brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. The medicinal use of hallucinogenic mushrooms is making inroads in U.S. states as military veterans advocate for the therapeutic value of psychedelic drugs, including in conservative states like Utah, Texas, and Oklahoma. At least 4 states have approved studying their medicinal properties in the last 2 years, and several U.S. cities also have decriminalized so-called magic mushrooms. Oregon is the first and so far only state to legalize the therapeutic use of psilocybin, the psychedelic active ingredient found in certain mushrooms, but studying them has not received approval, or has received approval, that is, not only in blue states like Hawaii, Connecticut, and Maryland, but also GOP-led states, Utah, Texas, and Oklahoma, where the state house passed a bill this year. Idaho Governor Brad Little says he will not participate in debates heading into next month's Republican primary. Little's campaign, in a news release Friday, says the governor's accomplishments in his first term are non-debatable. Little has drawn several Republican challengers, including far-right Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin. The governor and lieutenant governor in Idaho run on separate tickets. Also on Friday, State Representative Priscilla Giddings backed out of a debate for lieutenant governor planned for Monday. She says she believed reporters on a panel asking questions would be biased. Republican U.S. Representative Mike Simpson has also declined to participate in statewide televised primary debates. And a 19-year-old who disappeared from his family home in California nearly 3 years ago has been found in Utah, bringing astonishment and relief to his parents, who feared they would never see him again. Sheriff Justin Martinez and Connor Jack Oswalt was shivering and cold when sheriff's deputies came across him on Saturday sleeping in a convenience store in Summit County. Oswald had been diagnosed with autism and other conditions. His family had searched for him for years handing out flyers, scanning social media, and desperately chasing down fruitless leads. The Summit County deputies swarmed him up and eventually made the connection to a missing person flyer. KBNU News Time is 4:39.
Have you pulled your spring sheets out of storage, and do they smell stale and need freshening up? How about your blankets and your quilts? Are things dingy from winter use? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It takes no time at all to freshen everything up with their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, and it costs a lot less than the dry cleaners, and free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, too. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies and then mostly cloudy, low around 40. Clouds tomorrow leading to a 40% chance of rain showers in the afternoon, high temperature in the upper 50s, some west winds 10 to 20 miles an hour in the afternoon, 30% chance of showers by Tuesday evening. It's been to 68. It's 68 degrees right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by UNI Furniture. They're stocked up with a wide inventory, lots of chairs, lots of variety. There's a good chance they have what you're looking for. Always a better buy at UNI. Downtown Logan, 28 West, 1st North. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Ted Karen with Edward Jones Investments in Smithfield, bringing you the daily financial market report for Monday, April 18th. U.S. equities bounced around the flat line for most of the day, Monday, before finishing slightly lower, as rising interest rates continue to shape the market narrative and investor sentiment. The Dow was down 40 points to 34,412, the S&P down 1 point to 4,392, and the NASDAQ down 19 to close at 13,332. Treasury yields moved modestly higher, with 10-year rates sitting at the highest level since the end of 2018 at 2.87%. The energy sector led the way thanks to higher oil prices. The price of a barrel of oil moved up to nearly $108. But beyond that, there was no particular theme to Monday's underlying performance, suggesting markets may be in a wait-and-see mode as incoming inflation, economic, and earnings data are digested. Stocks are still lower on the year but have risen from the mid-March lows. In metals, gold was up $7 to $1,982 an ounce. In stocks of local interest, Apple was down 22 cents to $165.07. Nucor was up $5 to $170 a share. Zions Bank was up 76 cents to $63.68. Amazon was up $21 to $3,055 a share. Delta down 23 cents to $42.13. Boeing down $2.09 to just under $180 a share. And Twitter was up $3.37 to $48.45 a share. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you by Ted Karen with Edward Jones Investments in Smithfield, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. If you'd like additional information, please visit with any of our 8 Edward Jones advisors in Cache Valley, in Providence, Logan, and Smithfield.
Looking to reduce your fuel and monthly payment cost? Now is the time to get to Murdoch Volkswagen. Volkswagen's most popular SUV gets over 30 miles per gallon. Lease the 2022 all-wheel drive Tiguan SE for only $398 per month for 48 months. With wireless charging and a full digital cockpit display, stop by Murdoch VW today and drive away your dream SUV. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 4/30/22.
Looking for a job or career change? Plan to attend Cache Valley Media Group's Job Fair, Thursday, April 21st at Castle Manor in Hyde Park from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And be prepared to talk with 30-plus businesses looking for employees now, like Biomat USA, Deluxe Custom Carpentry, Cooper Takeoffs, R.R. Donnelly, JBS USA, Whitaker Construction, TTM Technologies, Murdoch Auto, West Liberty Foods, and more. Thursday, April 21st from 11 to 6 at Castle Manor in Hyde Park, presented by the Cache Valley Media Group.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. On the show, we talk a lot about access and records and documents and digitization and making things accessible for taxpayers, for historians, for government watchdogs. I mean, the uses of a public record or a document are impossible to nail down, and you'd never guess each and every way someone will come up with to use a record in a productive way or a document from history in a productive way. So I was really excited to read this news today and get a chance to spotlight it here on the show. Utah State University has been chosen, the libraries there have been chosen as the first participant in a United States government publishing office library services and content management pilot project. The short version of this is they are going to take a large collection of World War II related materials currently housed at Utah State University and get them all online, get them digitized, get them preserved permanently at that point and accessible to anyone, anywhere, even non-students. This is a really cool thing that happens, and it's exciting. Utah State University has been chosen to be the first in this pilot project's initiative. Joining us right now, archivist with USU Libraries, Jennifer Kirk. And Jennifer, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. This is a big deal, right?
Yeah. Hi, Jason. Nice to talk to you, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, our pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big deal. Here at USU Libraries, we have a government information collection that primarily consists of materials that are distributed for the public from the Government Publishing Office, which is the primary printing arm of the federal government. And we've participated in that program called the Federal Depository Library Program since 1907.
Wow.
It comes with our land grant designation here at USU.
Okay.
So it is fundamental to our public commitment to provide access and lifelong learning. And so as part of this collection, we interact with the GPO, or the Government Publishing Office, fairly regularly. We get materials from them today. Every day we're receiving new printed materials and making them available to the public. And then we also have this wonderful historic collection that really dates back to the beginning of government printing and open transparency in the late 19th century.
Oh,
the
sure.
federal government really starts printing things after the Civil War. And so we have things in our collection that the public is free to come look at whenever we're open. They're on circulating shelves, so down here in the lower level.
It's very cool because many people, one, don't realize this collection exists right in our own backyard here, but two, this is a project to digitize all of these materials so they'll be available to an even wider audience, but also they're permanent at that point. They don't degrade, they don't oxidize. And Jennifer, can you give listeners an idea of what we're talking about here? I know you and I spoke earlier arranging this interview. You mentioned that, for example, one of the documents that is in the collection there at Utah State University is a pamphlet that was sent to businesses to say, don't panic. Here's what's going to be happening over the next few months. 1941 to 1945 were pretty hectic in the United States.
Absolutely. And so these materials are all from agencies that were established under the executive office of the president, so under President Roosevelt's experience, and then many of them actually became cabinet-level agencies in the aftermath of the war. But at the time, the president was able to create these things underneath his authority. And so we have the very beginning of things like the Office of Civil Defense, which becomes a huge thing in the Cold War to help Americans prepare for any potential threat of Soviet incursion and or nuclear threat from other actors. And but so anyway, back to the 1940s stuff. That's the whole point, was to communicate better about these home front initiatives. The War Department was publishing materials, about the Army and the Air Force and the Navy at the time, and Roosevelt's focus was more on what to do in the home front. So this is where we see things like before the U.S. is involved. Early releases about the Lend-Lease Act are in this collection, which was support for Europe. Then we're also seeing things about war production, right? So in the lead up to America joining the war, there were concerted efforts to focus some industries on producing things for wartime use, which takes away the ability to produce for domestic use. So we're seeing things like one of the most fascinating pieces of the collection, in my mind, is a document about Utah. It's about it's about Utah women who served on salvage committees for the War Production Authority, and these women were in charge of keeping the community together. As we know, Utah is great at community involvement, and so these women helped lead drives for tin cans. You know, if you have a grandparent or a parent that has talked about remembering collecting tin cans, that would have been part of this movement.
Oh, wow.
And the recovering household fats like oils or bacon grease. So we have a document with names of women who participated from every county in Utah, and then some pictures as well. It's a wonderful document, and I'm so excited for it to be widely available.
It's very cool to to think about this being something that one day is going to be searchable on a website and being able
Absolutely.
to. It's a huge collection. I know they're at Utah State University, and speaking to the size of that collection, this won't be a quick project, right? This is scheduled for a 2023 completion date.
Right, and so this is the work for this is being primarily done by staff from the Government Publishing Office, which we are so grateful to have them able to focus on this. They're going to be cataloging, describing. I'm going to be shipping the documents to them for digitization. It will be then put up online at govinfo.gov, which is their public repository. It's also verifiable, and they authenticate every document that goes up there as being published officially by the federal government. So it is your go-to source for open, transparent government. New things go up there, historic things go up there, and they commit to preserving them long-term. It also makes it accessible to people who maybe would struggle to read a printed document. So if you can zoom in, right? You could have your screen read it to you instead of being able to see it. So it really does make the document as accessible as we can possibly make it.
It's fascinating, and I know they have some pretty complex processes for this. Do you know, Jennifer, what happens to the documents when they're taken there? I mean, this isn't just running them through copy machines, right?
Right, exactly. So, I'll try and describe it without using my hands, which I'm going to do when I'm sitting at my desk.
It's tough on radio. I still struggle.
But for your listeners, this is called non-destructive scanning. All of these documents will come back to us here at the library and will stay on our shelves for as long as we can keep them publicly available. And but so they will open the book like they would normally reading it. They'll lay it flat on a scanner, and then actually it's going to take a picture from above. And so most of the scanning equipment will actually push a plate down onto the book very gently so that it'll hold it open and there won't be any kind of bending of the words. And then they'll take a picture of each page. They'll lift that glass plate up. They'll turn the page. They'll put the glass plate back down. And they'll do that until the end of the book. And then there's a whole quality check to make sure that everything is readable and converting it into an open and accessible format. And so that's I've just described the work of probably 5 or 6 people.
Wow, that is fascinating to think about. This is... Yeah. And you can see why a project getting underway now wouldn't be completed until winter of 2023. But again, for listeners, once it is, this will mean this huge collection of World War II documents, official government documents at Utah State University, will be digital, meaning it lasts forever, meaning that it's accessible via searches and websites and things like that. This will open up a lot of opportunities for students and a lot of opportunities for even non-students. And Jennifer, I know so this specific project is happening with USU being chosen as the first in this pilot projects initiative from the GPO. Do you expect more? I mean, we've got huge collections of everything up there, right?
Yeah, so I mean, if they want to have me in a future pilot, I've already told them I'm interested.
That's fascinating.
No, so our commitment to working with the Government Publishing Office is strong, and we'll continue to do that, whether it's through pilot projects or through our regular work as part of the Federal Depository Library Program community. Our collection informs and works with people nationwide. So the great thing about the Federal Depository Library Program is over 1,000 libraries nationwide are part of it. Not all of them have collections as extensive as ours, but there are others like us. So I'm able to talk to colleagues around the country to compare my collection to theirs, to find out where I have things that they don't have, so I know whether we need to be more careful with it or to gather in duplicate copies so that we can have multiple circulating copies and ones available for folks that are just coming into the library. So yeah, I mean, I could see doing a future one of these. They're doing the call for the second pilot project right now. I obviously am immersed in this one, but
sure.
Maybe when it comes to pilot project 4 or 5, I would certainly welcome their continued involvement with this collection, because like you said, it covers a range of topics. That's what I love the most about the government information collection is it's broad enough that anyone I talk to, I can find something.
Sure.
To help inform whatever they're looking to learn about, whether that's current government action and transparency, or whether that's looking into the past to discover what the government did and how it shaped, various events and people through history.
That's what I think fascinates me most about the work you do as a archivist and what everyone involved in a process like this does. You never know what these documents or government records or a scanned receipt from some point in history might one day be useful for, and just it's fascinating to see that process play out. Mm-hmm. For listeners, again, this makes USU the first in a pilot projects initiative that is running through the Government Publishing Office, Library Services and Content Management, to digitize a large collection of World War II-related materials currently housed at Utah State University and will continue to be housed there. But through this pilot project, they will be digitized, made available online, and more accessible, even searchable to users, even non-students. This is a fascinating thing. Our guest again has been Jennifer Kirk. She is an archivist and general information librarian at Utah State University's Merrill Kazir Library. Jennifer, a pleasure to have you a part of the show today, and I can't wait to see where this one goes.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time. And for listeners, if you'd like to read more, check out the news story published by USU Today on this announcement. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
Thank you for voting Adams Wealth Advisors the gold winner for Best Financial Planner in the Best of Northern Utah competition. Understanding your family, jobs, and goals is how Adams Wealth Advisors will continue to earn your trust.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit adamswealthadvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today. Please see adamswealthadvisors.com for more information on these recent awards.
This month, we have an extraordinary opportunity to celebrate the grandeur and beauty of our planet Earth. From April 20th to the 23rd, Valley Recycling in Logan will host its annual Earth Day celebration. Bring in and recycle your scrap metal items to receive the highest prices of the year. Never in the Earth's history has recycling been more critical and impactful. Visit valleymetalrecycling.com for pricing and other information.
This is Ty over at Chim Chimney Fireplace. A lot of people hear our name and think we just sweep chimneys. While that is definitely our heritage, we specialize in providing the very best fireplaces and stoves to new and existing homes. We invite you to come see why Lopi Stoves lead the industry in performance and quality. With Fireplace Extraordinaire Fireplaces, we can bring any of your designs to life. From cozy and traditional to sleek and modern, come experience the warmth at Chim Chimney Fireplace in Logan and Brigham City or online at chimchimney.com.
On the next Handle on the Law.
There's no limit. They can say it costs $15,000 and you have to pay it. Why would you sign that? You think they can charge you the extra $100,000?
Right.
Why would they be able to charge? Why would they be able to charge you any extra money than what the contract was signed? I'll tell you when they can charge you extra money. When you were dumb enough to sign that clause. Nice talking to you. It's Handle on the Law, Saturdays from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
That's it for hour one of today's show. Thanks again to archivist and general library information specialist at USU, Jennifer Kirk. Fascinating to talk about this. Can't wait to see when this entire project is done in 2023, digitizing all the World War II document, every bit of that collection through a federal pilot program. Really cool. Excited about that. Coming up in hour 2, we'll kick things off talking about what's happening in Box Elder County and in the future with Executive Director of the Chamber